Hi everybody, welcome to Dr. Manny's YouTube Learn Shops. This is Social Stratification and it's part 1. The learning objectives for this session are that at the end of this session you should be able to explain the concept of social stratification, be able to review and understand and explain dimensions related to social stratification, describe certain systems which will be discussed in relation to social stratification, and describe some of the theories, or certainly state them. So what does stratification mean? Well, the term is really a geological concept from strata, and it basically means rock layers. And stratification is basically a hierarchy of positions in regard to economic production, which influences social rewards to those specific positions. But stratification is just layers or levels. So then stratification in relation to society, this is a system that society ranks or categorizes people into different levels or strata. It's a classification of people who are grouped based on shared socio-economic conditions. And these conditions could include economics, social aspects, politics, or ideological dimensions. Taking it a step further, it's a system, as we said, which ranks people into categories, into a hierarchy. And it's according to how powerful they are, how much property they own, how much prestige they have. When you look at the diagram, typically the rich are at the top, the upper middle class are next, the middle class are next, and everyone else is on the bottom. Social stratification then in sociology is that it's a concept that classifies people into groups, as I said. And we also said that it's based on shared socio-economic conditions. I'm going to repeat this over and over and over again. And when these differences lead to greater status, power, and privileges for some groups and others, this is called social stratification. There are different classes and there are different levels. If we review some of the basic principles of social stratification, it's a trait of society, in every society. And it's not just a simple reflection of individual differences. I mean, this is transferred from generation to generation. It's generic, it's universal, but it can vary, and it involves aspects related to inequality and beliefs about inequality. What are some of the concepts that relate to social stratification? Well, one of the concepts is that social differentiation exists. This is about roles. And this occurs when there are people with distinct individual qualities and social roles, which means more division. It reflects social inequality. And this is a condition whereby people have unequal access to valued resources, services, and positions in society. And you've all been exposed to this. You can see it in Malaysia and in every other country in the world. If we talk about differentiation as far as roles go, this is a distinction that's made between social groups and individuals based on biological, physiological, and socio-cultural factors such as gender, age, or ethnicity. And this results in the assignment of roles and a status within a society. So for example, social differentiation in the family might be based on gender. Then you've got social inequality. And social inequality is the existence of unequal opportunities and rewards for different social positions or statuses within a group or society. Examples of social inequality include income gap, gender inequality, healthcare gaps, social class issues, your skin colour, your eye shape, the place where you were born, your sexuality, your gender identity, parentage, and social status of your parents. What are some of the elements that are related to social inequality? Well, how rich you are, income, wealth, and property, your social status, your prestige. Are you a doctor? Or are you a nurse? Or are you a cleaner? Or are you a garbage collector? And your power. When we look at social inequality, historically, it's derived from social differentiation for two reasons. The first being because of human capacity to apply meaning to events and things, to develop judgments. We have judgments. We're judgmental about what is good and what is bad, or what is preferable. Then we have the roles of social positions, which place an individual in a position to acquire a greater share of valued goods and services. So, if you're in the right position, you can get more. If you're not, you'll get less. When we look at property, income, and wealth, these are symbols of success in most societies. And they're influenced by living choices, life chances, and opportunities. You've got wealth and income. If you're wealthy, if you've got a lot of money, it's a benefit. Then you've got social status. This is about social prestige. This is occupational prestige. And such positions of status command respect from all members of society. Then you've got power. And power is the ability to control events, behaviour of others in the face of resistance, and the resist being controlled by others. When we look at the different strata levels, people are essentially stratified, layered, levelled, categorised into social categories. And factors that determine social status, as we indicated previously, are money, income, education, your occupation, your age, your religion, your race, your gender, and what you can do physically. And again, you've got different strata levels. At the pinnacle of the pyramid is the upper class, and at the base is the underclass. Where do you fit in? Elements of social strata are social class, upper, middle, lower. Gender, male or female. Transgender, both. Political status, where do you fit in? Race and ethnicity, white, black, yellow. Age, very young, very old, somewhere in the middle. What religion do you practice or believe in? Do you have any physical or mental disabilities or handicaps? What are some of the components that are related to stratification? And two components are hierarchy and the systems. When we talk about the hierarchy of stratification, this reflects the idea that a social group in stratification systems are arranged one above the other. And typically you see it as a pyramid. Typically, as we already said, the wealthy, the famous, the powerful, the highly respected people are at the top. The low income, not so well known and not well respected are at the bottom. And somewhere in the middle are the well liked, the moderate income people. When we look at the system of stratification, it means it's not based on chance. It's there specifically for a reason. There's a set design. There's criteria that has to be met. It's the place of individuals and groups in society, and there's a general relationship between these individuals and groups. Here's an example of systems in relation to stratification. You've got the caste system. Be aware of this. Understand it. A caste system is one in which people are born into. They're born into their social standing. And it doesn't matter what they do, they're going to remain there in their whole life, forever. This is where people are assigned occupations, regardless of how clever they are, how talented they are, what they're interested in doing, or what they think they can potentially become. And there are no opportunities, or virtually no opportunities, to improve their social position. Then you've got the class system. The class system, this is social stratification based on both birth and your individual achievements. And there is an element of social mobility for people with education and skills, which means that they can change. They can go from lower, for example, to middle class, from middle class to upper class. All people gain equal standing before the law. Work involves some personal choices. Meritocracy, well, this is based on what you can do, what you can achieve. It's based on personal merit. And there's status consistency. Be aware of this one as well. Now, the caste system in India is based on ascription. Class is hereditary. So, for example, in the traditional caste hierarchy, you have the Brahmins, which are the priests and the scholars. You've got the Kshatriyas, who are the warriors, the rulers, and the people that had a lot of land. You've got the Vaishyas, who are the merchants, the farmers, and the skilled artisans. Then you've got the Shudras, who are the labourers and unskilled artisans. And right at the bottom, you've got what were referred to as the untouchables, or the Harijans. And these could be people like the street sweepers, the cleaners of lavatories, toilets. Right at the bottom. There are other caste systems as well. So, for example, European imperial powers in Africa had a caste system. And this was based on skin colour. Whites were always considered better and placed in higher positions than non-whites. The caste boundaries, for example, reinforced ritual pollution and ritual avoidance. And it may also be determined by ethnic and cultural factors. In a caste system, what does it mandate? It determines one's occupation. It requires endogamy. As we indicated in previous sessions, this is the custom of marrying only within the limits of the local community, the clan, or the tribe. And it's influenced by cultural beliefs and limits out of group social contact. You're not allowed to go out of your group. And look, there are terrible stories. I mean, look at the article that you've got in front of you. Parents poison girl in love with Dalit and watch her die. I can tell you stories from Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, even in Australia, from people who have migrated from places like Pakistan. The class system is one of the major systems of social stratification. And social stratification in this system is based on possession of money and material assets. A major characteristic of the class system is that it allows social mobility, though. And that means movement up or down the class ladder. So, for example, if you're in the upper class, unfortunately, you may end up in the lower class for whatever the reason. Or, if you're in the lower class, you can migrate up, social mobility, to the middle or the upper class. Examples of the class system are the upper, middle, working and lower class. In the upper class, there's a lot of property ownership with a lot of power that comes from such ownership. The middle class, a little bit of property, but high to middle management positions are what they do. They don't do manual labour. They work in offices, for example. The working class have got little or no property and they're in middle to low positions. They do the manual labour and have little or no authority. In the lower class, no property, often unemployed, no authority. In the class system, a class is considered to be a grouping of individuals with similar positions, political and economic interests. And class division occurs. And the criteria for such division are occupational structure. So, for example, nurse, doctor. Authority structure, taking orders rather than giving orders. Property structure, owning property that produces a profit. Causes of social stratification, what are they? Well, stratification and power is one. We've already mentioned this. Stratification and wealth. Stratification and conflict. The rich think they're better than the poor. The educated think they're better than the uneducated. The white think they're better than the black or coloured. You've got theories of social stratification, and as I've indicated previously, this is just some. If you want more, go and look it up yourself. Karl Marx advocated class and conflict. Max Weber advocated conflict theory. Davies and Moore determined functionalist theory. Karl Marx, as we've indicated previously, he was a philosopher, economist, socialist, journalist, and revolutionary socialist. He advocated class and conflict, and he said there are two classes: capitalists and proletarists. Capitalists essentially were the white-collar occupation. It was a higher prestige work involving intellectuals. This is typically factory owners and other productive businesses. The proletariats, they were the workers who sold their labour to the capitalists. This is the blue-collar occupation. It had lower prestige and it involved manual labour. He also believed people's lives were centred on how wealthy they were or how it was distributed in society. And stratification was determined by the exploiters, the upper class, and domination of the exploited, the lower class. And this theory viewed the state as an instrument of oppression, the government. Religion, he believed, controlled the masses, and the family kept the wealth and education only for a few. There was a marked difference between the rich and the poor, and the rich controlled the poor. What are some of the outcomes in relation to this theory? Well, it indicates that there's a failure to recognise that a system of unequal rewards is necessary because it motivates people to perform social roles effectively. However, class conflict still continues today between workers and management, and all the laws still favour the rich and the powerful. Max Weber was another conflict theorist. He was a sociologist, philosopher, jurist, political economist, which we explained. And here, as we indicated in previous sessions here, he was one of three theorists. And we've already mentioned Karl Marx, and Emile Durkheim is another of the three in relation to the founders of sociology. Max Weber identified three dimensions of stratification: class or economic power, and this is about production, producing things; status and social differences, which was founded on esteem, social honour, and given to individuals and groups by others. Also, political party power, and this is derived from the dominance over a political, legal or administration system. They were the three levels: class power, status differences, and party or political power. In his conflict theory, he said people are motivated by self-interest. Group conflict is a basic ingredient for all societies. It's important. Economic institutions are fundamental to shape society. Power relations promote and maintain dominance. Those who've got no property or power are more defenceless. And only when extreme exploitation occurs will the less powerful exert their dominance, which basically means here, if people are really exploited, that's the only time that they will stand up and fight for their rights. Stratification related to Davis and Moore was that there was an assertion that social stratification is a universal pattern because it has beneficial consequences for society. This theory implies that societies become more productive as they approach meritocracy, which means a system based on personal merit. I mean, if you want an A, you'll work harder. If you want a good job, you'll work harder. If you want to make money, you're going to work hard. In the functionalist theory, it spoke about social inequality, and it was viewed as necessary and constructive. Because if all the positions in society were equally important, everyone would be capable of doing all the jobs. And that's not the case. Some tasks and jobs are more necessary than others. Some require more talent and training. I mean, if you want to become a surgeon, this requires expertise. If you want to become a nurse specialist working in critical care or oncology or in pediatrics, this requires additional training. If you want to pick up rubbish from the side of the street or cut grass to make sure that everything is neat and tidy, landscaping, this requires less talent and training. If we compared stratification theories, the functionalist view and conflict theory, stratification, according to the functionalists, is universal. It's necessary and inevitable. But in conflict theory, it says here, yeah, it may be universal, but not necessary and not inevitable. Social organisations shape the stratification system. Yeah, agreeable in the conflict theory as well. Stratification, according to the functionalists, arises from a social need for integration, coordination, cohesion, working together. However, from a conflict perspective, it arises from group conquest, competition and conflict. Stratification, according to the functionalist view, facilitates the best, optimal functioning of society and the individual. However, from a conflict approach, stratification impedes, blocks functioning of society and the individual. Now remember, they're theories. You can have your own theory. The functionalist view states here that it's an expression of commonly shared social values. However, conflict theory states that it's an expression of values of only powerful groups. From the functionalist perspective, power is usually legitimately distributed in society. However, the conflict approach says it's illegitimately distributed in society, not equal. Functionalist, tasks and rewards are equitable, equally allocated. Conflict, they're not. Economic dimensions are subordinate to other dimensions of society, whereas the conflict approach states that it's paramount in society. Stratifications, according to the functionalist view, are that they change through an evolutionary process. However, in the conflict theory, systems often change through revolution, fighting, in order to get a change process. So, when it comes to the conclusion, here's a good quote: no matter how big your house or what car you drive, we all end up in the same sized grave. Stay humble. Be a good human being. Thanks everybody. Check out any of the other Dr. Manny Learnshops on YouTube if you thought this was of any benefit to you. Bye for now.